Don't fall. Okay, everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done like a sit down sort of video. It's dark again. Hopefully it's giving, someone said one of my last videos that it was giving cozy, so I hope it's still giving cozy. But I am back, and per request of the man that I live with, my husband, he asked that I please put the cover on the bed nicely before I film. So I have done just that. And I'm joined by my friend. What I want to talk about today, it's quite random and I did not write a script, so I do hope that it's not me just burning it for 45 minutes. It won't be that, but I did just eat some Nerds Cluster, so I might be... Alright, so what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. So I actually just read this for a book club, and it's here in Seoul. I'll include the name down below. It's called, and I have a note. Seoul Book Talks. So, Seoul Book Talks is just a book club. It is not the style of kind of read whatever you want. It's definitely more in the style of like traditional book clubs, so like more curated kind of thing. And I've been following them for a long time. I just haven't, I haven't been able to go. And then the timing ended up matching up, and this was the book that was chosen for this month. And honestly, I would have never chosen something like this for myself to read, which I think is what's quite fun about doing book clubs or going to a book club, is that not that you're forced to read something you'd never read, but in a way it does motivate you to like to do just that, honestly. And I loved it. I'm gonna read the blurb on the back because again didn't write a script. So Sybil Van Antwerp, didn't actually think about how to pronounce that until now, has throughout her life used letters to make sense of the world and her place in it. Most mornings around 10:30, Sybil sits down to write letters to her brother, to her best friend, to Joan Didion and Larry McCurtry, to tell them what she thinks of their latest books, and to one person to whom she writes often yet never receives the Am I okay? Most mornings around 10:30, Sybil sits down to write letters to her brother, to her best friend, to Joan Didion and Larry McCurtry, to tell them what she thinks of their latest books, and to one person to whom she writes often yet never sends letters. Sybil expects her world to go on as it always has, but when letters from someone in her past force her to examine one of the most painful periods of her life, she realizes that the letters she had been writing over the years needs to be read, and that she cannot move forward until she finds it in her heart to offer forgiveness. The Correspondent is a gem of novel. I think something's wrong with me. I think I'm having a sugar high. I can't talk. The Correspondent is a gem of a novel about the power of finding solace in literature and connection with people we might never meet in person. Sybil Van Antwerp's life of letters might be a very small thing, but she also might be one of the most memorable characters you will encounter. So it is all written in... awesome. Like a letter format. So letter and or email format. So like everything starts with the address. I don't know hey, sorry if you can't see this. The address at the top, followed by dear, and then from whomever. Okay, initial thoughts. I really liked it. First, 20, 30, 40 pages, that the letter format was definitely something to get used to, and I've never read anything like that, coming from a generation that rarely even emails. I do email for work, but it was crazy to like see that be someone like long form writing to be people's forms of communication. And I really, after about 20-30 pages, it really got me. The Correspondent is a story that follows Sybil Van Antwerp, sorry. She is a 70-something-year-old woman living alone. She was married, had 3 children. She was what was it, lawyer and then a clerk. I think that's what you call it. And she's quite not famous necessarily, but quite well known in her work that she had done. And it just kind of follows her life, and it starts to look at, you know, how she grew up as an adoptee and having an adopted brother and her parent, you know, that sort of family dynamic, losing her mother quite young. It follows her story of losing her mother quite young. She has a friend that she has stayed in contact with for almost 70 years since she was a child, and you see the letters through that friendship. You see the letters from her brother. You see so many different parts of her life, and I think looking at it and kind of processing it again, you realize just how many lives we live and how interesting it is to think about all the things you've done, even if they weren't perfect, and what they turned out to be. But it goes through her life again and through her divorce. Sybil does deal with child loss, and for me, almost one of the biggest parts of this book was Sybil and her grief, and Sybil not knowing how to process her grief and not understanding or learning or trying to process her grief, and that just completely shifts who she is as a person for the last 30 to 40 years of her life. But then you see, spoiler sort of, you know, you then watch her though, even at 70 something years old, find new sparks in her life and find new beginnings, and she's quite stubborn and quite frustrating in the way that she does it a lot, but she does at the end, you know, sort of realize that even though she's done things and doesn't think she deserves to have any happiness, that eventually, you know, she comes to terms that she does. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but even then, I think it's a really good read. I think it's a really good read into looking into how humans grow and how we process grief, and that looks different for every person. And I think Sybil is not a perfect character. I don't think she's that good of a person most of the time. But, you know, I also think she did with what she could, right? Like, she did what she could with what she had. And she learned and used that knowledge, I guess, in the only way she really knew how. And I really enjoyed it. It's a book that I would recommend quite easily to somebody. I think it's an easy read, and I think that it's a book that can make people definitely feel something, even if this is not your style, or that you're not a contemporary fiction reader, or, you know, or even really reader. I don't think it was hard. I don't think, you know, I think looking at it from a different perspective and merely deep diving into it, you can see a lot of other parts of it that you might have missed before. But anyway, so that part of it, I really enjoyed the book overall, and I think it was a really good book to have conversations about. I'm really glad that I ended up going with the book club for this book specifically, because I feel like it really, not me gripping this like my penguin, I do feel like it really made me like think about it more. And it was one of those books where, you know, as I was talking about it, like more things kept coming to me. And I think that's why talking about books is so important, because the more you discuss it, the more you see what the author was trying to portray. What the hell? Where's my journal? So I brought my journal because I wrote down during the book club, I wrote down some thoughts. Normally I journal about my books. I'm very, very behind. Okay, I'm very busy. I'm very busy lady. So, oh, hello, I wrote 10,000 notes. So maybe I can't read that. Okay, so the first thing that we kind of talked about was the idea of like sending letters. That was not the first thing, that was a lie. But the idea of, you know, sending letters and like, is that something? And, you know, it's something really special about the first thought I had, which I thought was so funny, when we were talking about hiding behind a screen and like Sybil kind of hiding behind her letters, and all I could think about was like how funny that even people that write letters that are doing things in a more shoot, what is that word? Y'all know what I'm talking about. That word that means, physical media. That sort of way, but then they're still hiding behind that screen and hiding themselves in that way. Full circle, guys. Okay, so we talked a lot about different characters and different things like that, but there's a lot of characters in this book. There's a lot of moving parts. I think each character tells a very important lesson around Sybil and like kind of why she is the way she is, or why she does the things she does, which is quite interesting. And it was quite fun to look into the characters more and what they represent, I think, to her. But you guys can do that. A lot of people in the club definitely talked about the frustration around Sybil and the frustration as to like why she does the things she does and why she speaks to people the way she does and why she reacts the way she does. And all I could think about the whole time was just like, she is grieving. Like, I think, and then, it's something my husband tells me, that I see the good in people maybe to a fault. I felt like I kept coming across like a big Sybil supporter. I'm really not. I see her and I can see where she's hurting, and I can see where that has turned her into the person that, we see from this outside view of her just not being very nice. I also think Sybil's quite self-sabotaging. I think she has dealt with a lot of loss in her life, and she doesn't see herself as somebody that deserves to be happy, and so by doing that, she pushes away anyone that could make her happy or make her feel happy. And I think that in itself is a big part of Sybil's character and the way her character kind of changes. But I'm very, very curious. This is a book that I think could have a lot of discussion about, and I think people could see Sybil and her character in many different ways. I think that's something that's so special about reading books, is that people do have such different experiences in life, and reading a book and your life experience can give you a completely different point of view or completely outlook for the way something comes across, and it is quite interesting. One big comment a lot of people I had was that the story wrapped up a little bit too neatly for them, which I thought was a really interesting take. I kind of agreed with it in a way. Like, it did feel like, her life was so crazy, and then but for me, it was kind of this interesting notion of maybe like it wrapped up so nicely and easily because she finally gave herself the ability to like process her grief, and that by processing the things we feel, sometimes it does wrap itself up nicely, So I don't know, that was quite an interesting take for me. I really enjoyed listening to why people maybe didn't like the book, or why they did like the book, and the different feelings they got from it. And main thing I wanted to go on is that I love the book, but even more I love being able to sit down with people and talk about a book and have like healthy discussions about what we liked and disliked and how we felt about something. And it's one thing to like absorb, or it's one thing to read something or watch something, but it's another thing to discuss it and talk about it and broaden yourself and open your mind to different points of views and different opinions. And I really enjoyed it, and I just think my main thing was go out, join a book club, talk about books, or just talk with your friends about it, or tell people about what you're reading. And I think it's such a special thing to be able to do that and just talk. But yeah, that was it. But anyway, I know that was kind of just me rambling on and on, but I did enjoy it, so I kind of wanted to share. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys go read something new. I hope you try The Correspondent, because it's really good, and if you enjoy it, please let me know. Your goal is to go join a club, go read a new book, and go talk to people, go interact. That's it. Bye. Thanks so much for watching.